Leading with Lineage.
California Reparations Task Force hearings.
Final report recommendations.
California Freedmen Affairs Agency, CAFA office.
The Fund for Reparations and Reparative Justice.
Free the land, eminent domain, unjust property taking return.
The Mass Media Group was there. Reparations Now, the documentary where it all began.
Released Juneteenth, 2023.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR rules, don't tune in.
Available to watch on Tubi TV and other streaming outlets. As always, thank you for the support. Please like, share, and subscribe to your number one source for reparations and news. Until next time, peace and reparations. Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be reading AB-886, the California Journalism Preservation Act of 2023 and 2024. I know we briefly mentioned this on the vlogcast, podcast, whatever you want to call it, on SB 1327. So we are going to read it today. If you have a chance, you can go back to read or to listen to parts 1, part 2, and part 3 on this channel. But before we go, please tune in right here to in the Mass Media Group on 8/15. I don't think they've actually have a scheduled time yet, so be on the look out for that. And that those 3 bills are going through the Appropriations Committee through the suspense hearing, so be on the look out for that. And then there's actually a call to action as well to reach out to Chair Buffy Wicks, who is once again the chair of the Appropriations Committee. So please reach out to Buffy Wicks. It's right there on the screen. You can scan it and let Buffy Wicks know that you support reparations here in California. Greatly appreciate that. All right. And also, please support us, Amazon. It will be in the body of the description, and our store at ETM Media Group store.com. That's ETM Media Group store.com. And also at reparationsnow.com. That's reparationsnow.com, and at Tubi. Alrighty. So before we go, I'm going to go ahead and run this ad that's been, at least I've been seeing on the internet. I don't know if you've been seeing it on the internet, but let's go run this ad for, it looks like it's actually in opposition of AB-886. Here we go.
Considering a bill that could make things even worse by subsidizing national and global media corporations while reducing the web traffic local papers rely on. So tell lawmakers, support local journalism, not well-connected media companies. Oppose AB-886. Paid for by CCIA.
All right, so as that ad was mentioned, it was sponsored by and paid by CCIA. For those who did not listen or watch the part 1 and part 2 and part 3 of the SB 1327, here is the CCIA and the members, and that's the Computer and Communications Industry Association. As you can see below, those are the members. All right. Looks like quite a few large media tech companies that are affiliated with this organization. So we're going to read it. You can make your assessment to see if this is something that you should support or should not support. I'm not too sure. Or if this is some type of legislation, if you're not in California, that should be passing to support local news and also media, because I think it's very important to have independent and non-biased and just as much factual information to provide to the not only to our local but state and national community. All right, the people, as they call it, we the people. All right, family, so we're going to get into the bill text here. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so this is the bill AB 886, also known as the California Journalism Preservation Act. All right, Assembly Bill number 886, introduced by Assemblymember Wicks, co-authors Assembly members Lowenthal and Asali, Senators McGuire, Skinner, and Stern. And I think it's actually pronounced Asali. All right, here we go. An act to add Title 23, commencing with Section 3273.80 to Part 4 of Division 3 of the Civil Code relating to civil law. Legislative Council's Digest, AB 886, as amended, Wicks, California Journalism Preservation Act. Existing law generally regulates online platforms, including by requiring, on a semi-annual basis and as specified, a social media company to submit to the Attorney General a terms of service report that includes, among other things, the current version of the terms of service of the social media platform. This bill, the California Journalism Preservation Act, would require a covered platform as defined to either pay at least looks like there isn't a disclosed amount yet. Let's continue. Annually to compensate digital journalism providers as defined for accessing the internet websites of the providers for a California audience, where the money is annually adjusted as specified and annually distributed to digital journalism providers as described, or to participate in a final arbitration process as specified and fully pay the arbitration award as provided. The bill would require, commencing not later than March 1st, 2025, a covered platform to compile and post on its internet website a list of digital journalism providers as described, that the platform access for a California audience during the preceding 12 months. The bill would require a covered platform to provide the above described list to any digital journalism provider upon request as specified, and to establish a designated email address to which a request may be submitted. This bill would prohibit a covered platform from retaliating against a digital journalism provider for asserting its rights under the Act by refusing to access content or changing the ranking, identification, modification, branding, or placement of the content of the digital journalism provider on the covered platform. The bill would require a digital journalism provider to spend at least $70,000, blah, blah, blah. Let's go back. Would spend at least 70% of funds received pursuant to the Act on news, journalists, and support staff employed by the digital journalism provider. The bill would require an eligible digital journalism provider with 5 or fewer employees to spend at least 50% of funds received pursuant to these provisions on news, journalists, and support staff employed by the digital journalism provider. This bill would require no later than 1 year after the end of an arbitration proceeding or reaching a settlement in lieu of an arbitration proceeding, or receiving a payment as specified in each year thereafter, the digital journalism provider to compile a report containing, among other things, an attestation that the digital journalism provider has compiled with the revenue sharing provisions described above. The bill would require a digital journalism provider to publish and distribute that report as specified. By expanding the scope of the crime of perjury, this bill would impose a state-mandated local program. The bill would authorize a digital journalism provider to seek and obtain injunctive relief to compel compliance as specified, and will require court costs and reasonable attorney's fees to be awarded to a prevailing provider. The bill would state that its provisions are severable. The California Constitution requires the state to reimburse local agencies and school districts for certain costs mandated by the state. Statutory provisions establish procedures for making that reimbursement. This bill would provide that no reimbursement is required by this act for a specified reason. Vote majority. Appropriation no. Fiscal committee yes. Local program yes. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1. This act shall be known as the California Journalism Preservation Act. Section 2. The legislature finds and declares all of the following. A free and diverse fourth state was critical in the founding of our democracy and continues to be the lifeblood for a functional society. California has a compelling interest in protecting businesses that report and distribute news from unfair business practices and competition. Every day, journalism plays an essential role in California and in local communities. And the ability of local news organizations to continue to provide the public with critical information and their communities, and enabling publishers to receive fair market value for their content that is used by others, will preserve and ensure the sustainability of local and diverse news outlets. Communities without newspapers lose touch with government, business, education, and neighbors. They operate without journalists working to keep them informed, uncover truth, expose corruption, and share common goals and experiences. Over the past 10 years, newspaper advertising has decreased 66%, and newsroom staff have declined 44%. Ethnic media has long been a distinctive genre of journalism and communications, informing, engaging, and advocating on behalf of communities underserved by both the for-profit and not-for-profit general market media. It plays a unique role in upholding the fourth estate in our democracy by facilitating cross-racial and cross-ethnic communities to facilitate social integration, promote civic engagement, and address inequalities among all of the undeserved communities. Okay, let's repeat that one more time. Ethnic media has long been a distinctive genre of journalism and communications, informing, engaging, and advocating on behalf of communities underserved by both the for-profit and not-for-profit general market media. It plays a unique role in upholding the fourth estate in our democracy by facilitating cross-racial and cross-ethnic communications to facilitate social integration, promote civic engagement, and address inequalities among all of the undeserved communities. Given the important role of ethnic media, it is critical to advance state policy that ensures their publishers are justly compensated for the content they create and distribute. An excellent example is the historic preamble, "We wish to plead our own cause," a document penned by the African American journalist and abolitionist Samuel Cornish in 1827. It marked a significant milestone in the history of the Black press, as it highlighted the urgent need for African Americans to have their own platform to voice their grievances, advocate for their rights, and challenge racial inequality. All right, I just want to thank the California legislature and the author, Buffy Wicks, in the assembly for actually noting the importance of African Americans, Black American descendants, and not only the freedom of speech, but the right to have a press. It's very important that we, as those who built this country, actually have a say, and actually know that we have a right to tell our stories the way that we want to tell our stories and how we should tell our stories. Okay? So let's continue. This call to action spurred the establishment of numerous Black-owned newspapers and publications, solidifying the role of the Black press as a powerful tool for empowerment and social change, and laid the groundwork in our country for other ethnic media to plead their own cause. Quality local journalism is key to sustaining civic society, strengthening communal ties, and providing information at a deeper level that national outlets cannot match. I'm going to repeat that again, okay? Quality local journalism is key to sustaining civic society, strengthening communal ties, and providing information at a deeper level that national outlets cannot match. So once again, please support platforms like the Mass Media Group. Please support platforms like the California Black Media, which has a lot of Black-owned media outlets throughout California. So please support, these platforms, okay? Because at least as far as I'm aware, like this reading AB-886, we just try to provide you the information so you could take the information and decipher it yourself. Okay, we're not going to here to try to interpret for you, even though we could. And sometimes we interject, but for the most of the time and for the most part, we try to give you this information. All right, so once again, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell, and if you want to become a member on this channel, please do so. All right, let's continue. 73% of United States adults surveyed said they have confidence in their local newspapers. Section 3, Title 23, commencing with Section 3273.80 is added to Part 4 of Division 3 of the Civil Code to read, compensation for journalism usage. For purposes of this title, the following definitions apply. Access means to acquire, to crawl, or to index content. Advertising revenue means revenue generated through the sale of digital advertising impressions that are served to customers in the state through an online platform, regardless of whether those impressions are served on internet websites or accessed through online or mobile applications. Covered platform means an online platform that at any point during a 12-month period meets both of the following criteria. The online platform has at least 50 million United States-based monthly active users or subscribers on the online platform. The online platform is owned or controlled by a person with either of the following. United States net annual sales or a market capitalization greater than $550 billion, adjusted annually for inflation on the basis of the Consumer Price Index published by the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics. At least 1 million worldwide monthly active users on the online platform. Covered platform does not mean either of the following. An organization exempt from federal income taxation pursuant to Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. A company that earns fewer than 50% of its annual revenue as calculated at the level of the ultimate corporate parent from its online platform advertising and search services. Digital journalism provider means a publisher or eligible broadcaster that discloses its ownership to the public. Eligible broadcaster means a person that meets all of the following criteria. The person holds or operates under a license issued by the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, under Subchapter 3, commencing with Section 301 of Chapter 5 of Title 47 of the United States Code, and has held or operated under the license for the prior 2 years. The person engages professionals to create, edit, produce, and distribute original content concerning local, regional, national, or international matters of public interest through activities, including conducting interviews, observing current events, analyzing documents and other information, or fact-checking through multiple first-hand or second-hand news sources. The person updates its content on at least a weekly basis. The person uses an editorial process for error correction and clarification, including a transparent process for reporting errors or complaints to the station. News journalist means a natural person who meets both of the following criteria. The person is employed for an average of at least 30 hours per week during a calendar quarter by the digital journalism provider. The person is responsible for gathering, developing, preparing, directing the recording of, producing, collecting, photographing, recording, writing, editing, reporting, designing, presenting, or publishing original news or information that concerns local, regional, national, or international matters of public interest. Online platform means an internet website, online or mobile application, digital assistant, or online service that does both of the following. Accesses news articles, works of journalism, or other content or portions thereof generated, created, produced, or owned by a digital journalism provider. Aggregates, displays, provides, distributes, or directs users to content described in paragraph 1. Publisher means a person that publishes a qualifying publication. Qualified arbitrator means an arbitration organization that has established arbitration rules and procedures for at least 1 year prior to the initiation of the arbitration. Qualifying publication means an internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service that meets all of the following criteria. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service does not primarily display, provide, distribute, or offer content generated, created, produced, or owned by an eligible broadcaster. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service providers information to an audience in the state and has done so for the prior 2 years. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service performs a public information function comparable to that traditional served by newspapers and other periodical news publications. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service engages professionals to create, edit, produce, and distribute original content or original content for which a valid license has been obtained concerning local, regional, national, or international matters of public interest through activities including conducting interviews, observing current events, analyzing documents and other information, or fact-checking through multiple first-hand or second-hand news sources. All right, we're going to pause there real quick, and then we will come back and continue the reading.
Amend the Mass Media Group is California Capital's premier YouTube channel focused on reparations. Dedicated to political advocacy and unapologetically aimed at shining a spotlight on our righteous justice claim for reparations.
I'm Jay from 6 Zeros, and I'm here on Amend the Mass Media.
Oh man, ETM Media, man, my guy, you behind the scenes all the time on a Gangsta Lean, teaching us how to do it. Not only did you have your own platform, but you also help these black people know how to hold their positions down when their sound system failed. So I appreciate you having the music giant skill sets that you have, because not only were you able to hold this interview down, you're able to hold this whole scene down. You feel me? They don't know you was behind the scene holding it down, my guy. Much respect to you. Keep on being great.
Yes, sir. My name is Salahuddin Tula. My slave name is Jeffrey Sims. And out of being ashamed of being a slave, I changed my name. But now I'm proud of my history. And I want to thank EMEN, the mass media group, for the process of recording history, because some people have a different learning style. So I appreciate the videos because I can actually see what people are saying in comparison to reading what they're saying.
It's Devontae Clark, STEVANTECLARK. We're at the second annual Broadway International Festival here on Broadway between 16th and 19th Street.
Well, H.B. Pierce, he was here too.
My name is Gaynell Johnson. My birth name is Gaynell Burgess.
Gaynell Burgess.
Yes.
And how are you related to the Burgess?
My great-grandfather is Rufus. My great-great-grandfather is Rufus Burgess.
All right, everyone. So let's continue where we left off. Thank you for joining once again. This is the Mass Media Group. Please like, share, and subscribe. All right. Let's see here. All right. We're going to start on 6. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service has an editorial process for error correction and clarification, including a transparent process for reporting errors or complaints to the publication. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service meets any of the following criteria. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service generated at least $100,000 in annual revenue from its editorial content in the previous calendar year. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service had an international standard serial number assigned to an affiliated periodical before January 1st, 2025. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service is owned or controlled by an organization exempt from federal income taxation pursuant to Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service has at least 25% of its editorial content consisting of information about topics of current local, regional, national, or international public interest. The internet website, online or mobile application, or other digital service is not controlled or wholly or partially owned by an entity that meets any of the following criteria. The entity is a foreign power or an agent of a foreign power, as those terms are defined in Section 180 1801 of the Title 50 of the United States Code. The entity is designated as a foreign terrorist organization pursuant to Section 1189 of Title 8 of the United States Code. The entity is a terrorist organization as defined in Section 1182 of Title 8 of the United States Code. The entity is designated as a specially designated global terrorist organization under Federal Executive Order 13224. The entity is an affiliate of an entity described in subparagraphs A, B, C, or D. The entity that has been convicted of violating or attempting to violate sections 2331, 233B, or 2339A of Title 18 of the United States Code. Representative means a labor organization designated as the exclusive bargaining representative of news journalists or support staff for the purposes of collective bargaining or accordance with applicable state or federal law. Support staff means a natural person who performs non-executive functions including payroll, human resources, fundraising and grant support, advertising and sales, community events and partnerships, technical support, sanitation, and security. A covered platform shall do either of the following: pay at least blank dollars blank annually to compensate digital journalism providers for accessing the internet websites of the providers for a California audience, where those amounts are annually adjusted for increases in the consumer price index and annually distributed to digital journalism providers as follows. No less than 1% of this amount shall be paid to digital journalism providers that would receive less than $25,000 pursuant to paragraph 2 to be distributed annually proportionally by the number of news journalists and subject to subparagraph B of paragraph 2 of subdivision of section 3273.86, freelancers who in the previous calendar year were employed by each qualifying publication for the primary purpose of producing content for a California audience among those digital journalism providers, in addition to the amount those providers would receive pursuant to paragraph 2. Proportionally by the number of news journalists and subject to subparagraph B of paragraph 2 of subdivision A of section 3273.86, freelancers who in the previous calendar year were employed by each qualifying publication for the primary purpose of producing content for a California audience. Participate in a final arbitration process under section 3273.84 and fully pay the arbitration award, if any, to the administrator engaged pursuant to subdivision A of section 3273.82 within 30 days of the award, or to each participating digital journalism provider within 90 days of the award. 3273.82A, a covered platform shall make distributions pursuant to section 3273.81 by doing either of the following: engaging an approved claims administrator to distribute the annual payments to digital journalism providers. A, in selecting an approved claims administrator, the covered platform shall ensure that the administrator is well qualified to perform the distribution and has administered multiple settlements in the state of California that comply with complex civil litigation class action settlement guidelines in at least 3 state or federal courts in California. The cost of the claims administrator shall be in addition to the amount specified in section 3273.81, distributing the annual payments to digital journalism providers itself, the cost of which shall be in addition to the amount specified in section 3273.81. An administrator distributing payments pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision A, or a covered platform distributing payments pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision A shall do all of the following: prepare an annual statement of account related to the distribution activities certified by a certified public accountant, identify a point of contact for digital journalism providers' inquiries with timely redress. 3. Establish policies to resolve disputes, guard against fraud and abuse, and ensure that undistributable funds are reallocated among participating digital journalism providers after a reasonable holding period pursuant to Section 3273.81. Publish on its internet website an annual report detailing non-confidential operations of the fund, including the digital journalism providers that receive compensation and the amount paid. If the covered platform has engaged a claims administrator to distribute the payments, the administrator shall provide the report to the covered platform, and the covered platform shall also publish the report on its internet website. On or before April 1st, 2025, a covered platform shall identify a point of contact for email or other electronically communicated digital journalism provider inquiries. A digital journalism provider that wishes to receive an annual payment pursuant to subdivision A of section 3273.81 shall submit notice to the point of contact by May 1st, 2025. The notice shall include at a minimum the name of the digital journalism provider, the number of eligible journalists employed or claimed pursuant to section 3273.86, and a contact person for the publication. The covered platform may institute reasonable measures to verify that the notice was sent by an actual representative of the publication. A covered platform distributing payments pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision A shall retain a qualified auditor to examine relevant books and records with respect to the distributions as part of an annual audit. The final arbitration award under section 3273.84 to a jointly participating group of digital journalism providers shall be distributed proportionally by the number of news journalists and subject to subparagraph B of paragraph 2 of subdivision A of section 3273.86. Freelancers who, in the previous calendar year, were employed by each participating provider for the primary purpose of producing content for a California audience. The amount of any compensation received by a digital journalism provider through a commercial agreement for access to content via the covered platform that was offset pursuant to subparagraph C of subparagraph 3 of subdivision G of section 3273.84 shall be deducted from its allocation accordingly. G1, a digital journalism provider that disagrees with the determination of the eligibility or the amount of compensation awarded may seek a review of the determination as follows. If the covered platform has retained a claims administrator, the digital journalism provider shall seek redress through the dispute resolution process established pursuant to paragraph 3 of subdivision B. If the digital journalism provider disagrees with the result of the dispute resolution process, the digital journalism provider may initiate an arbitration of the dispute by a qualified arbitrator. If the covered platform has not retained a claims administrator, the digital journalism provider may initiate an arbitration of the dispute by a qualified arbitrator. Any challenge pursuant to paragraph 1 shall be made within 10 days of receiving notice of the eligibility decision or compensation determination to be challenged. In an arbitration pursuant to paragraph 1, the claims administrator or covered platform, as applicable, shall pay the cost of the qualified arbitrator. A digital journalism provider shall not be denied compensation under this section on the basis that the provider publishes or broadcasts in whole or in part in a language other than English. Commencing no later than March 1st, 2025, a covered platform shall compile and post on its internet website a list of digital journalism providers that the platform accessed for a California audience during the preceding 12 months. A covered platform shall provide that list to any digital journalism provider upon request within 3 days after the request is submitted, and shall establish a designated email address to which a request may be submitted. A digital journalism provider shall not be excluded from the list or arbitration under Section 3273.84 on the basis that the provider publishes or broadcasts in whole or in part in a language other than English. In an arbitration initiated pursuant to subdivision B of Section 3273.81, the arbitrator shall determine the percentage of the covered platform's advertising revenue to be remitted to participating digital journalism providers on an annual basis pursuant to this section. Digital journalism providers shall jointly participate in a final offer arbitration process with a covered platform described in this section to determine a single percentage of the covered platform's advertising revenue from which the distributions described in subdivision E of section 3273.82 will be allotted. Covered platforms shall not participate jointly in a final offer arbitration process. Within 30 days after a covered platform posts the list of digital journalism providers pursuant to subdivision A of section 3273.83 by a majority vote, participating digital journalism providers shall establish rules and procedures to govern decision-making regarding the arbitration proposal or any settlement reached pursuant to subdivision C, and each digital journalism provider shall be entitled to one vote on any matter submitted to a vote of the members. The covered platform or digital journalism providers may initiate a final offer arbitration with a qualified arbitrator for an arbitration panel to determine the percentage of the covered platform's advertising revenue remitted to the participating digital journalism providers. Nothing in this section shall be interpreted as preventing a digital journalism provider from being individually represented in the joint arbitration process in subdivision A. Prior to the commencement of the final offer arbitration, there shall be 60 days of mediation between the covered platforms and digital journalism providers to reach a settlement. If no agreement is reached, the final offer arbitration shall commence 10 days after the conclusion of the mediation period. If an agreement is reached through mediation, the arbitrator may approve the agreement, in which case the group will not proceed to arbitration. The arbitration procedure authorized by this section shall be decided by a panel of 3 arbitrators affiliated with the qualified arbitrator under the rules of the arbitrator, except to the extent they conflict with this section. The covered platform and the digital journalism providers shall each pay 1/2 of the cost of administering the arbitration proceeding, including arbitrator compensation, expenses, and administrative fees. The cost for the digital journalism provider shall be deducted from the amount awarded before the calculation in subdivision E of section 3273.82. During a final offer arbitration proceeding under this section, all of the following shall apply. Digital journalism providers and the covered platform may demand the production of business records that are relevant to the single percentage of a covered platform's advertising revenue to be awarded to participating digital journalism providers and that are non-privileged, reasonably necessary, and reasonably accessible without undue expense. A covered platform seeking the production of business records of a digital journalism provider that qualifies for a distribution pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision A of section 3273.81 shall be limited to one request for documents and information, and the covered platform requesting the information shall within 10 days reimburse the provider for the reasonable cost of production, including reasonable attorney's fees. Documents and information described in subparagraph A shall be exchanged not later than 30 days after the date the demand is filed. Digital journalism providers and the covered platform shall each submit a final offer proposal for the remuneration that the digital journalism providers should receive on an annual basis from the cover platform for access to the internet websites or other digital services of the digital journalism providers for an audience in California. Based on the value that access provides to the platform, the final offer proposals shall include backup materials sufficient to permit the other party to replicate the preferred valuation. A final offer proposal pursuant to this section shall not address whether or how the cover platform or any digital journalism provider displays, ranks, distributes, suppresses, promotes, throttles, labels, filters, or curates the content of the digital journalism providers or any other person. Not later than 60 days after the date arbitration proceedings begin pursuant to subdivision C, the arbitration panel shall determine which of the parties' final offer proposals to accept pursuant to paragraph B of subdivision F. The arbitration panel shall accept one of the two offers without modification. In making a determination pursuant to paragraph 1, the arbitration panel shall do all of the following: refrain from considering any value conferred upon any digital journalism provider by the cover platform for distributing or engaging its content other than monetary compensation agreed to by the digital journalism provider in a written commercial agreement with the platform. As an offset to the value created by that digital journalism platform, digital journalism provider, unless the cover platform does not automatically access and extract information from a digital journalism provider's internet website. Consider past incremental revenue contributions as a guide to the future incremental revenue contribution by any digital journalism provider. Consider the pricing terms and conditions of any available comparable commercial agreements between parties granting access to digital content, including pricing terms and conditions relating to price, duration, territory, and the value of data generated directly or indirectly by the content, accounting for any material disparities in negotiating power between the parties to those commercial agreements. If submitted with a final offer proposal, consider the digital journalism provider's previous compliance with section 3273.86 if applicable. Issue a standard binding arbitration award of the percentage of the covered platform's advertising revenue remitted to participating digital journalism providers. Within 15 days of accepting a final offer proposal, the arbitration panel shall issue an order setting forth All right, sorry, I had to clear my throat a little bit, but let's continue. Within 15 days of accepting a final offer proposal, the arbitration panel shall issue an order setting forth the final amount that the cover platform pay on an annual basis pursuant to section 6273.81. The order shall do all of the following: set forth the amount of the final offer accepted by the arbitration panel. Require the cover platform to pay the final offer amount on an annual basis. If applicable, authorize the cover platform to reduce the total payment by the total amount of all commercial agreements the cover platform has with any participating digital journalism provider that participated in the arbitration for the covered period. To receive an offset under the subparagraph, the cover platform shall provide to the arbitration panel copies of all of the commercial agreements for which it seeks an offset. The platform may offset its annual payment for a payment made pursuant to a commercial agreement only by the amount actually paid under that agreement each year. The date of the order. Any party to the arbitration proceeding may elect to appeal the decision of the arbitration panel pursuant to Section 3273.88 on any ground permitted under Section A of Section 10 of Title 9 of the United States Code. If the cover platform and digital journalism providers reach a settlement in lieu of arbitration, the settlement shall not waive the digital journalism provider's obligations pursuant to Section 3273.86. No less than 1% of each arbitration award shall be paid to digital journalism providers that would receive less than $25,000 to be distributed annually, proportionally by the number of news journalists and subject to subparagraph B of paragraph 2 of subdivision A of section 3273.86 freelancers who, in the previous calendar year, were employed by each qualifying publication for the primary purpose of producing content for a California audience among those digital journalism providers, in addition to the amount those providers would receive pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision G. 1. Any party to the proceeding elect to reinitiate the arbitration process on a date no fewer than 24 months from the date of the order, paragraph 3 of subdivision G. The order shall remain in effect until the issuance of a superseding order. A cover platform shall not retaliate against a digital journalism provider for asserting its rights under this title by refusing to access content or changing the ranking, identification, modification, branding, or placement of the content of the digital journalism provider on the covered platform. A digital journalism provider that is retaliated against may bring a civil action against the covered platform. This section does not prohibit a covered platform from and does not impose liability on a covered platform for enforcing its terms of service against a journalism provider. Except as provided in paragraph 2, a digital journalism provider shall spend at least 70% of funds received pursuant to this title on news journalists and support staff employed by the digital journalism provider. A digital journalism provider with 5 or fewer employees shall spend at least 50% of funds received pursuant to this title on news journalists and support staff employed by the digital journalism provider. For the purpose of calculating an allocation from a covered platform pursuant to subdivision A of section 3273.81 and subdivision E of section 3273.82, or for establishing a digital journalism provider's minimum allocation to news journalists and support staff pursuant to this section, a digital journalism provider with 5 or fewer employees may elect to count dollars spent on the equivalent functions performed by news journalists as follows. The digital journalism provider shall employ at least one news journalist for the primary purpose of producing content for a California audience. Each $40,000 spent by a digital journalism provider in the previous calendar year to compensate either natural persons performing the functions defined by paragraph 2 of subdivision F of section 327380 may claim to employ the equivalent of one news journalist up to a maximum of $160,000, or the equivalent of 4 news journalists, with those amounts subsequently annually adjusted for increases in the consumer price index. In no instance may the total number of news journalists and their equivalents claimed pursuant to this clause exceed the number of natural persons compensated by the digital journalism provider. B. No later than 30 days after the end of an arbitration proceeding described in section 3273.84, reaching a settlement in lieu of an arbitration proceeding, or receiving a payment pursuant to subdivision A of section 3273.81, the digital journalism provider shall provide notification in writing of its plan to compile with subdivision A to the news journalists and support staff employed by the digital journalism provider for any representatives of those news journalists or support staff. The digital journalism providers plan to comply with Subdivision A shall include a good faith estimate of the number of news journalists and support staff, respectively, if any, expected to be hired, details regarding proposed compensation adjustments, if any, and a disclosure if either hiring or compensation adjustments are not expected. No later than 1 year after the end of an arbitration proceeding described in Section 3273.84, or reaching a settlement in lieu of an arbitration proceeding, or receiving a payment pursuant to Subdivision A of Section 3273.81, in each year thereafter, the digital journalism provider shall compile a report that includes all of the following: an attestation as to whether the digital journalism provider has compiled with Subdivision A of Section 3273.86, the text of the digital journalism provider's plan to comply with Subdivision A of Section 3273.86, the total number of payments under this title received from covered platforms, the name of each covered platform paying the digital journalism provider a payment under this title, and a description of how the digital journalism provider spent the payment, including any amount of payments under this title remaining unspent. The total number of news journalists and support staff, respectively, employed by the digital journalism provider, including the number of news journalists and support staff hired or terminated, respectively, during the previous year. No later than 1 year after the end of an arbitration proceeding described in Section 3273.84, or reaching a settlement in lieu of an arbitration proceeding, or receiving a payment pursuant to Subdivision A of Section 3273.81, and each year thereafter, the digital journalism provider shall publish a copy of the report described in Subdivision A online in a text searchable format, and provide a copy to the news journalists and support staff employed by the digital journalism provider, any representatives of those news journalists or support staff, and the covered platforms making payments under this title to the digital journalism provider. If a digital journalism provider fails to comply with this section, a covered platform may withhold payments under this title until the digital journalism provider has provided a copy of the report to the covered platform and has published a copy of the report online pursuant to Subdivision B. Nothing in this title shall be construed as amending or repealing the ability of a digital journalism provider or a covered platform to avail themselves of Section 526 of the Code of Civil Procedure or any other existing remedy at law. A digital journalism provider may seek and obtain injunctive relief to compel compliance with this title and court costs, and reasonable attorney's fees shall be awarded to a prevailing provider. This title does not modify, impair, expand, or in any way alter rights pertaining to Title 17 of the United States Code or the Lanham Act. This title does not abridge or impair rights otherwise reserved by news journalists, support staff, or their representatives according to applicable law or existing collective bargaining agreements. Section 4. The provisions of this act are severable. If any provision of this act or its applications is held invalid, that invalidity, I guess that's the correct invalidity. Okay. That invalidity shall not affect other provisions or applications that can be given effect without the invalid provisions of application. Section 5. No reimbursement is required by this act pursuant to Section 6 of Article, looks like 8B of the California Constitution, because the only cost that may be incurred by a local agency or school district will be incurred because this act creates a new crime or infraction, eliminates a crime or infraction, or changes the penalty for a crime or infraction within the meaning of section 17556 of the government code, or changes the definition of a crime within the meaning of section 6 of article 8b of the California Constitution. All right, family. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually read something. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and read an article that talks about Samuel Cornish. I'm just gonna go ahead and pull that article up for a second. Let's see here. All right. Thanks for your patience. I'm gonna get to it shortly. All right. So. All right. You know what? That was my fault. My Roman numerals be terrible. All right. So I think that's 13B. All right. Article 13B, and not, did I say 8? Yeah, I think that's Article 13, family. All right. So if you want to do your due diligence, you can go check that out accordingly. But let's go ahead and see here. I'm going to go ahead and read a quick article on who Samuel Cornish was, or I know some people like to refer to ancestors in the present. So if you want to say is, you can say is too, but let's continue. Samuel Eli Cornish, born in 1795, transition November 6, 1858, was an American Presbyterian minister, abolitionist, publisher, and journalist. He was a leader in New York City's small free Black community, where he organized the first congregation of Black Presbyterians in New York. In 1827, he became one of the 2 editors of the newly founded Freedom's Journal, the first Black newspaper in the United States. In 1883, he was a founding member of the Interracial American Anti-Slavery Society. All right. So let's see who the Anti-American Slavery Society was. The Anti-American Slavery Society, known as AASS, from 1833 to 1870, was an abolitionist society founded by William Lloyd Garrison and Arthur Tappan. Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave, had become a prominent abolitionist and was a key leader of this society, who often spoke at its meetings. William Wells Brown, also a freedman, also often spoke at meetings. By 1838, the society had 1,350 local chapters with around 250,000 members. Wow. All right. So members included Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Theodore Dwight Weld, Lewis Tappan, James G. Birney, Lydia Maria Child, Maria Weston Chapman, Nathan Lord, Augustine Clark, Samuel Cornish, George T. Downing, James Fortin, Abby Kelly Foster, Stephen Simmons Foster, Henry Highland Garnett, Berea Green, who presided over its organizational meetings, Lucretia Mott, Wendell Phillips, Robert Purvis, Charles Lennox Remond, Sarah Parker Remond, Lucy Stone, and John Greenleaf Whittier, among others. Headquartered in New York City from 1840 to 1870, the Society published a weekly newspaper, the National Anti-Slavery Standard. All right. So once again, let's go back to the top up here. This act is known as the California Journalism Preservation Act under AB Assembly Bill 886. All right. So I think, I wanted to read this. One, because I said, and I know on here we try to keep our words whenever possible. I know we're extremely busy. Got other stuff that we're doing, but it's very important that we continue the tradition of our freedom of speech, freedom of press, especially from the perspective of Black American descendants who built this country, right? Because oftentimes our perspectives can be suppressed. And as journalists and as media, I think it's important that we not only preserve what our ancestors who participated in journalism conveyed to the community, that we keep that integrity. And I think that's what we try to do here at the Mass Media Group, the best that we can. And to be honest with you, it's quite hard because at times you see that there's a lot of other stuff going on out in the world, and to actually have some integrity and to keep your news and information with more actual information instead of a lot of conspiracies, to have a lot of clickbait. And that's really difficult to do. And that's, I'm not going to lie, right? To have clickbait material. So for those that do listen to our podcasts, our vlogcasts, our shows, our programs, we greatly appreciate you, because we feel that you want information that's non-biased, that gives some type of, and I'm not trying to cap or be rude, but some intellectual stimulation, providing some intellectual ideology, right? That oftentimes is really lacking, right? And it's okay to have an opinion. I don't see, everybody should have an opinion regardless, I should say, if you are part of an organization, may that be for profit or non-profit or just an individual. So, we definitely encourage people to do their due diligence and do their further research if need be. So anyway, if you have a chance to, please, once again, like, share, and subscribe. And on Sundays at 10 a.m., we are planning to continue the road to reparations. For those that didn't watch part 24, you can go check that out. We covered SB 1331, SB 1403, and SB 1050, which is going to be coming up on this 15th. Once again, so it's going to be the suspense hearing through the assembly. And this is basically 2 steps, or 1 step, I guess, before the floor at the assembly, and then to the governor. There could be some other things transpiring, but we still have to get it out of the suspense first before it hits the floor. So everybody, please call to action. Reach out to the chair, Buffy Wicks. Okay, tell her that we need this pass. All right. tell the assembly that we need this passed out of the suspense to the floor. Okay? On that note, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, we always appreciate you. Thank you for turning in. Thank you for tuning in to Men the Massive Media Group, your number one source for news and reparations. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a great one. As always, peace and reparations.
Black August, 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 Black August.
On this month, we have the rise of the Phoenix, George Jackson. From the day that we landed from all